Hello and welcome to the Tool Assisted podcast. This is your host, the 8-Bit Beast, and today is the 17th of July, 2019. Today I'm talking with Colin, also known as EZGames69, and we're talking specifically about Splatterhouse, but he's done a whole range of other games. So Colin, tell us a bit about yourself.
Hello ladies and gents, this is EZGames69. I've actually gotten that like once or twice before, where people have like confused me for EZscape. And
Wait, so you're not EZscape?
Oh. No, I don't. I'm not handsome.
Wow.
But yeah, my name's Colin. I'm EZGames69, and I do a lot of different games, including Splatterhouse. I just thought that Splatterhouse was a pretty neat series because it's not every day you get to find games back in the 16-bit era that were as gory as Splatterhouse was. So, especially with the violence in video games controversies going on with the creation of the ESRB. So, it's a very interesting series, in my opinion, where it's a game series where it just seems like the developers did not care about public perception, and they just wanted to make something that was really rad and very violent. And that's what I liked about it.
And it didn't really come up in the court trials about violent games much, did it? Surprisingly.
Well, actually, I think it did. I think they mentioned Splatterhouse 3, and one of the ads for Splatterhouse 3 has actually joked that it was the type of games that video game rating systems were invented for, and it did end up getting featured like slightly in the Senate hearing, but it was only to like read off some of the lists that the advertisement showed, where it's like so they read off a little bit of the advertisement for Splatterhouse 3. They basically just said like they had these bullet points on the advertisement that said it featured deadly new weapons, 6 levels of monster bashing mayhem, and killer special moves. And then
Wow.
that was all that Splatterhouse received on that Senate hearing. And the other thing that's interesting, I mean, this whole series has like a lot of interesting things when it comes to video game rating systems. Like, it was one of the first games in North America to really have a warning on the front of the cover that said, this game is not meant for children. Like Splatterhouse 1, for example, it said something like, the following game is not suitable for young children and cowards.
Wow.
And then Splatterhouse 2 had a similar warning on the front, but it didn't have the "and cowards" part, which I'm kind of sad about.
I imagine that would almost entice some children to try and buy it as well.
Exactly. I mean, it was one of those like edgy games to buy. And the other interesting thing is that when Sega actually had their own rating system, like this was like before the ESRB, I believe. It was a voluntary rating system that they had. They gave Splatterhouse 3 an MA13 rating, but that wasn't the highest rating that a game could get. It was like more of a teen rating for it's the equivalent of like a T rating in the ESRB. And I don't know what rating system you have, but usually that just means like 13 in the US.
Yeah, ours is all over the place. We don't even have a 13.
Okay. But anyway, it had MA13, which wasn't the highest for Sega at the time. The highest was MA17, and that was given to the games like Mortal Kombat, and there's another shooter game. I can't remember the name of it. It was one where you just shoot people in the streets. It was like I think it was a game that was also shown at the Senate hearing as well.
I think a big thing that they made a big deal of is that you're never actually hurting any humans in Splatterhouse. That was how they got away with a lot of it.
Well, I mean, technically there are humans, but they're just not like people humans. They're like possessed by demon spirits or something like that. They're zombies basically. I feel like Splatterhouse 3 in general is probably the creepier game because, I mean, there's just to name one boss from the game. There's this one in level 3 where a teddy bear gets possessed by a ghost and it starts attacking you, and it's like it has like all this babyfied music, like chimes in the background, and it was really creepy to fight. Not only that, but it also has like this really creepy laugh too. Like, it's like I don't think this is meant to be MA13. I think this is supposed to be. I think this is supposed to be like MA17. The heck are you doing, Sega?
Who knows? A classic Sega. Or Sega, I should say.
Sega.
Sega.
Sega!
Sega! Before we delve too much into Splatterhouse, like, how did you even get into gaming? What were you playing growing up? And speedrunning as well.
Well, one of the first games I remember playing was Pokemon. I think it was either Gold or Silver. I can't remember which one it was, but I remember like I was very young in my kitchen, and my brother was playing this like little weird box in his hands, and I was like, "What the heck is that?" And it was Pokemon, and I didn't really have a concept of gaming at the time. I mean, granted, it was the first experience, but I always like remembered taking my brother's Pokemon game and always like restarting it just because I kind of like the intro to it. Although I did not know how to save the game, so it's not like I was over saving his file, which I'm pretty sure he'd be very upset about. It's the worst feeling in the world to lose a save in Pokemon.
Oh, I think I accidentally deleted my brother's save a few times.
Were you restarting it? Were you restarting it for the same reason I was doing it?
I think I think I played his Pokemon game, and then it just so happened that day the battery also went flat in it, so he thought that I'd broken it. Maybe I did delete his save. I've definitely deleted his saves on a few games. Maybe not Pokemon, but yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's cool. So Pokemon was like your first intro. I guess you were probably born like, what, late 90s then? Something around there?
Yeah, around 1997, yeah.
Yeah, around 1997. Yeah, same. So how did you end up knowing about all these old games then? Because I've seen you Taz a lot of like TurboGrafx 16 stuff.
Well, I don't really... Most of the games that I do, it's not really exactly games I've grown up with. It's just games that I find interesting, especially for the time that they were made in. There are a few old games I do remember because I didn't really have an SNES growing up, but I do have experience, or I do have memories of playing the SNES because I had a cousin that lived in Pennsylvania. I live in Michigan for reference, so every time I go to his house, I would always play like The Lion King and Super Mario World, and also he had a copy of Mortal Kombat, and I would always play it, but I was never like I don't even think I was ever like scared by the gore in there. I was just kind of like, whoa, that's so rad.
Yeah, I think I had a few of those games as well, and it never really even occurred to me as something that would have been so controversial, I suppose. But yeah, I don't know. It was probably more influential when everyone was talking about it, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably just because like it's not the game isn't. I guess this is weird to say because it is like a violent game, but I don't think it's because. I think it's because the game isn't really like obviously gory. It has like blood and effects and stuff like that, but the only time you really see like the true gore of the game is when you do the fatalities, which I never really knew how to do much of. It was always like my cousin that always showed me how to do it.
Yeah, and the concerned parents wouldn't know how either.
Yeah, and even then, like, I was just like, whoa, that's really cool. But I feel like, I mean, have you seen the more recent Mortal Kombat games where they actually look like realistically violent? Like, I feel like
not really.
I think it's called Mortal Kombat X or something like that.
Wow.
It is much more violent, and I'm pretty sure I would be freaked out by it if I was a kid. I got freaked out as a kid when I watched YouTube videos of Elmo dolls being on fire, so my standards were pretty low at the time.
Well, when you're a kid, it's like that, isn't it?
Yeah. Maybe you know what? Maybe it's because like there wasn't any sort of image that I could relate to. Because I mean, you as a kid, you could probably relate to Elmo being like this really cute character, and then to like see him engulfed in flames, that would probably terrify you.
Oh, I'm sure it would.
Since Mortal Kombat is more adult themed, like throughout the entire game, it probably didn't bug me as much because it's like, oh, nothing here feels out of place. This is all purposely.
It's not
like this.
Not creepy. Yeah. I reckon we had like this talking SpongeBob doll that we accidentally left out in the rain, and then all the voice was garbled and broken and creepy. Oh, yeah, man. And then the dog like chewed it up, so it was just this messed up SpongeBob doll. Oh, man. Yeah, that's probably similar to your Elmo thing, I'd say. Ugh.
So have you ever seen the video of the talking fish on the wall that has like a really low battery?
The what?
What? Do you know the
talking fish?
Have you never had these? They were like. So do you know how like whenever you like catch a fish, you would like put it up on a wall as like a trophy?
Yeah.
There's
yeah, I know the type of fish.
Yeah, there's like this toy that like if you walk by it or like press a button, it sings to you, and every time it like starts to sing, it like lifts its head up and then just moves its mouth. But there's a video of that toy, but like the battery life is like so low that when it starts singing, it's just like, put me in the water. But then when it stopped singing, it just like went back to normal. But every time it like started singing, it like turned into like this really demon like sound effect. It was like really funny. I gotta show it to you sometime after this.
Oh man, so many things that are intended for like fun times, but it end up being really creepy. Ugh. Yeah, we have this town called like Murray Bridge in Australia, and it has this thing called the Bunyip, which is it was like a Aboriginal Dreamtime story of this monster, and like I forget what the monster did. It kind of like punished bad people for some reason, I think. But anyway, they have this attraction which is like you put a coin in, and then the monster comes up out of the water slowly, and it's like a town that's on a river. And yeah, it makes this really loud noise and freaks you out. And people like take their kids there and stuff. It's so creepy. Oh man.
I've had this isn't near where I live, but there's this place in I think North Dakota. I can't remember where it was. It's a place called Waldrug. It's like in the northern part of the United States, more to like the west area. I'm gonna take a wild guess, and it's in either North Dakota or South Dakota, but
it's in Dakota.
Yeah, it's the Dakotas.
No, it's in Dakota.
There's a North and South Dakota. They're two different states. But anyway, there's this place called Waldrug, and it's basically just a tourist trap for anybody that's like passing by the area. It has like a bunch of shops and all that stuff. They have like this dinosaur that roars. It's like in the end of a hallway. It's like entrapped with like guardrails to make it seem like it's like one of those Jurassic Park like type closures. And it's just like this really giant dinosaur that like looks back and forth, and every 10 minutes it like roars, and it's like really loud too. I think when it roars, it like spits out steam that like from a fog machine too. It's really insane.
Oh yeah, I feel like I saw a dinosaur like that at the museum or something as well. That's pretty cool. Do people take their kids there and stuff?
Oh yeah. Kids love dinosaurs, and I don't think they're going to be scared by a giant. I mean, I feel like they would be, but from a distance,
I would be.
from a distance, I think they'd be fine.
I guess so. Yeah, well, I guess you take kids to the zoo to see like lions and stuff. That's true.
I mean, it depends on the kid. Like some kids aren't traumatized by that type of stuff, but I think most kids like to see dinosaurs.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Anyway, yeah, wow, that got that got into a bit of a tangent, didn't it?
Yeah.
When did you find out about speedrunning? Or did you want to talk more about your games, or move on to that?
I can talk about speedrunning. Yeah, so my very first experience with speedrunning was actually a TAS of Super Mario 64.
0 star?
Actually, no, it was a 16 star. It was a very old movie.
Oh, wow.
For reference, it's actually the most viewed video on the Web Nation's YouTube video or YouTube channel. And yes, I know what the site thinks of Web Nations, but that's how I got into speedrunning. There was that one video that I saw that was like, I just didn't know what was going on, because it's like, how can you beat a game with less than 70 stars? Because I thought like you literally could not do that. You like the game just wouldn't allow you to beat the level or beat the game or something.
So you saw this before any regular speedrunning as well?
Well, my first experience with regular speedrunning, I was playing Ocarina of Time one day, and me and my brother were talking about like how long this game is, and then we wondered like, what's the fastest way that somebody could beat this game? And we looked it up, and the world record was like 20 minutes. And we thought that was insane, because like, how can you get through all the cutscenes and all the dungeons in like 20 minutes? And keep in mind, the concept of sequence breaks was we didn't really grasp that concept. So when we actually saw the speed run of that game, it was like they go to this one part, and then they like talk to Navi, and then they like fall through the floor. And we're like, what? What's going on? And and then there's one part where Link exits the shop, and what was the village called again? The very first village, when Link leaves the shop for there, and then immediately like air slashes to the ground and then clips through it, and then like swims all the way to the Great Deku Tree. And we were like, this is insane. How did somebody do this?
Yeah, wow. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that was probably one of the first runs I saw as well, despite not having played Ocarina of Time. It was very, very common speedrun.
Yeah. And the other, although that didn't really get me into speedrunning itself. What got me into speedrunning itself was actually like discovering GDQ. And like seeing all these games, and I was like, this seems really cool. I want to try to find a speedrunner that I can watch, like just to see what they do. And the person that really got me interested in speedrunning was TGH, when he used to do Undertale runs. Shout out to my boy TGH, and it just kind of spiraled from there to doing tasks of games I liked. Well, my first attempt at tassing is a game that I'm still trying to figure out how to work with. It's an N64 game, just to give you context. It was a game that I actually tried to speedrun at first. It was Tigger's Honey Hunt, if you've ever heard of that game.
Wow. I have not.
It only has 6 levels, but the levels are pretty long. And the goal of the game is to collect as much honey as you can. Because, I mean, it's like a collectathon, but then you have to collect a certain amount of honey in each level before you can leave it. So,
so what? 6 levels is in like a Super Mario 64 sized level?
Not really. I mean, it's a 2.5D game. So it's a side-scrolling game where you just have to like collect honey as you go along. And the only reason why the levels are so long is because Tigger kind of moves slowly, and also you encounter like a bunch of cutscenes of some other animals in the woods.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, I didn't do that game. I never finished it because every time I had like finished the run, it would always desync somewhere later in the run, and I just kind of lost interest with it. And I was like, okay, I'm just never gonna do tasking again because it just sucks. But then I tried doing other games, not N64, but like GBC and GBA, and I was like, whoa, this is actually stable. I can actually work with this. And the GBA game is the only one I ever finished. And that was Dora the Explorer Super Spies.
Oh, yeah.
That was my first experience with tasking, and it was I want to revisit that game one day because it's been like 2 years since I made that, and I know that there's a lot of mistakes I made in there. Like I think there was at one point where I just stopped randomly to do like the left-right movement, doing that in a place where it really shouldn't be there. So, also just want to do it to like see how much I've improved since those 2 years.
Yeah, I've had that experience too. Like, go back to old Taz's, and then it's surprising how much you've improved in optimization.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, were you on like Mupen when you were doing that TIG game?
I wasn't using Mupen. No, I was. This is like around like 2017, so I'm pretty sure Mupen would have been deprecated by then.
Good. So you're on BizHawk.
Yeah, and also I'm pretty sure that old Taz was using Jabo as a video plugin when it should be Gliden 64, I think is what it's called.
Because I've always found BizHawk fairly stable, except for Pokemon Stadium minigames. I tried to Taz once and it desync.
Oh, you know what? Actually, recently I was trying to get the tool-assisted speedrun of that game to sync on the new BizHawk, and the game straight up crashes if you try to do any battle.
What, Pokemon Stadium?
Yeah, it's like once the first Pokeball in the actual battle gets thrown, the game just crashes, and I have no idea why.
Wow.
It's very strange. I don't know if it's because of the video plugin I used, or it's just like something went wrong with the core.
That's interesting, because I have a game that I was trying to get to work. I wonder if I go back to an older version, maybe it'll work.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Anyway, so we were talking about some cute kid games like Winnie the Pooh, Tigger's Honey Hunt, and then Dora the Explorer. Oh, yeah. So let's dive into a violent series, Splatterhouse.
Quickly before you do that, I'm sure people would know, like I'm always really impressed at how quickly you can Taz games. Just list off like your Tazes. Like, you've done heaps of Tazes.
Yeah.
People probably know some of them.
Yeah, so I've done Toy Story for the Super Nintendo and Genesis. I've done what was it? I've done something called The Incredible Crash Dummies in the Genesis.
Oh, I didn't realize you did that, Taz, because I remember watching that and I was like, oh yeah, that's pretty good. I didn't realize that was you.
It was me and someone named Exxon. I think that's how you say it.
So did you actually like full on work on them with it, or is it?
Yeah, I worked with them on it. We like exchanged files between each other, and I mostly looked at some of the bosses, because the bosses can have like really weird properties when it comes to health. Like the boss will either like, so like for example, the third boss in the game, the plane one, you can manipulate him to land quickly, because even if you bring his health all the way down to -2 in memory, he won't die unless he's on the ground. So if you can manipulate him to land on the ground faster, then he dies pretty quickly. But normally he like stays in the air for like 3 cycles, and before he can like actually die. So the other thing that's weird is that if you throw too many wrenches at one point, the game will just straight up crash. Like there's just way too like I don't think it has a sprite cap or anything like that. Like instead of just lagging the game so much, it just straight up breaks. So yeah, I've done Incredible Crash Dummies. I've done more recently Maria mode for Symphony of the Night on the Sega Saturn.
Yeah, I'd imagine that would be one of your more popular ones, like being such a popular game as well.
Mm-hmm. That's a really fun game to do because Maria just has like a lot of creative ways you can move around, and I'm very happy I did it.
Yeah, definitely. I'm scrolling through your list here as well. So you've done Splatterhouse, obviously. I remember you were really into Bonk's Revenge on TurboGrafx.
Oh yeah, Bonk's Revenge. Bonk's Revenge actually. So Konami, because they own the rights to Hudson Soft now, they actually just announced a TurboGrafx 16 Mini, and it includes Bonk's Revenge. Yeah, it's like $100 right now, but I don't know if it's what it is for other regions.
Yeah, I haven't played it, but I have seen the Taz, and it seems like a pretty solid platformer to me.
Oh yeah, it was really fun to do, and Memory's been very obsessed with that series recently. Even so much so that there's this one sign in Bonk 3 that she's doing that just says "You love Bonk 3," and every opportunity she posts it on Twitter.
Wow.
The other thing that she really likes about that game is the end credits, and it says something like, "This is for all you Bonk kids out there." Every time she posts that, I'm just like, "Bonk kids, rise up!"
Yeah, this is just for Memory. That's what they meant.
Yeah.
I'm seeing here as well, you focused on Lion King for a bit, and I loved that because then you tazzed Lion King on the Master System. Master System being one of my favorite consoles. Oh yeah.
Yeah. The Master System is very, very different. The Master System version is very different to the other game. So
yeah, but I love that because you're one of the few people who has tazzed a Master System game now. So that's very nice.
I want to do a bunch of different systems in the same way that people like Adelicat and Mothrays have done a ton of different systems, just because I find it interesting how those games operate and how they control, because I don't know, I just find it really interesting to see how other systems work when it comes to how they play games, and I don't know, I just find it really fun to do.
Yeah, that's the thing. I tend to stick to Master System, but it would be interesting. Thing that puts me off is learning different emulation. Usually, if it's on BizHawk, it's okay.
Yeah, shout out to BizHawk for being a really good emulator for people to task on.
Yeah, definitely.
Shout out to Task Studio as well.
I'd love it if they got a GameCube core in BizHawk. That'd be really good.
I don't think that's going to happen. I feel like the Dolphin devs are just because Dolphin has so many updates now that it's almost impossible for BizHawk to keep up with all the updates.
Yeah. And
I feel like Dolphin would be more open to adding an input editor in the same way of Task Studio on Dolphin itself, rather than just port it to BizHawk.
Yeah, I'd love it if they added a Taz Studio.
Mm-hmm. It'd be awesome. But I don't think they focus on the tasking as much as we do. But it'd be awesome. I would definitely probably do more games if they have something like that. Not that I hate the old system, but it's just that the old system is not the old method where you have to use nothing but re-record, nothing but save states and frame advance and stuff like that. I don't dislike that. Some people prefer it. It's just not as convenient to work with.
Well, yeah, Hyper Resonance did the whole Banjo Taz using that method, and he had Taz Studio completely ready to go if he wanted it, and he loves that method. So I think it's just personal preference. But my Teslas would be nowhere near as optimal.
I just find Chat Studio to be a lot more convenient, and especially where it's like I have something to do later today. I can like do an entire level just in Task Studio. I don't think I can do that with the old method.
Yeah, it's difficult. Some people are just really good at it though. But yeah. Good. Anyway, we should probably move on to talking about like Splatterhouse specifically. After all these nice child-friendly games, we should talk about Splatterhouse. So, I think we talked a little bit about the ratings before, but basically, like, so what is this game?
So this game is, this game was originally an arcade game in Japan. It never really got a release outside of Japan, and that's mostly probably due to the graphic violence of the game. But it got ported to the TurboGrafx-16, and that's how it made its way to the United States. But what's interesting about that port is that there was a few changes made that were there was a few changes made to it. Like for example, Rick, who's the main guy, does not look like Jason Voorhees anymore. Instead, he just looks like a guy with a red mask. Because this series has a bunch of different references to many horror-themed games or horror-themed movies, with Jason Voorhees being one of them, with the Friday the 13th horror series. But they knew that
these are movies from like the 70s and 80s, aren't they? Because this game was what, like 88, was it?
I think
something around there.
Let me take a look.
I feel like the TurboGrafx version was 88. I'm not sure about the arcade.
1988, that's what it says.
Yeah, so all those slasher movies, they'll be all over those.
Yeah, that's basically what it was. So yeah, it not only that was changed, but they also removed all the religious references. Like there's an entire boss battle that takes place in a church, and the boss of that battle is an inverted cross, and then in the background you can also see like crosses on all the pillars. Those were all removed in the TurboGrafx-16 version. The other thing that they removed in that boss battle was when you defeat the boss, Rick will like walk up to an altar, and there'll be like church music playing. But they completely removed the altar, but they didn't put anything there to replace the altar. Because usually the camera's like supposed to pan to the altar, and then it shows like Rick praying or something like that. But in the TurboGrafx-16, because that's removed, it just kind of looks out of context, and it just doesn't. It's like, what are you trying to show me? There's nothing there.
Don't they still have like floating candles or something that were on the altar as well?
Yeah, they removed the altar, but not the candles that I was supposed to be on. So it's like,
ridiculous.
Why are those there? I feel like what they could have done for that scene is, since they replaced the inverted cross with just a normal zombie head, what they could have done is just like had a pile of zombies over there or something. Because at least that would make more sense instead of just having nothing.
Yeah, that would have worked out well actually. Why didn't they do that? Yeah, but the candles like kind of look like they're on the wall, but not really. Yeah,
they're just there. Yeah. It's implied.
Sure. Yeah. So it's basically like a big horror mashup game, and they're stepping as close as they can to copyright without infringing on it.
Yeah, and later in the series, they decided that it probably isn't a good idea to have a mask that's similar to Jason Voorhees' mask, at least like if we're going to release this in the United States. So they decided to make it more skull-like as the series went on. And they had 3 different versions of the mask. So they have the original Jason Voorhees one. I guess like if we're talking about American releases, they had the red mask, and then they had a mask that looked incredibly like a skull. And then they had a different one that almost looked like a skull, but also had like a kind of unique look to it, which was in Splatterhouse 3.
Okay. Yeah, so they got further away from Jason each time, did they?
Yeah, so basically all 3 masks were completely different in each game, and yet they were somehow the same mask.
Yeah, sure. Isn't there a bit of like, because what is it? The end of so the mask is like giving him his powers and something, and then he loses it at the end of the first game and gets it back in the second.
So the story goes as Rick and his girlfriend Jennifer. I think they're psychology majors in college, and for one of their projects, I think they had to like go study this weird house that was known as the Splatterhouse. There's an entire cutscene that like shows them entering the house in the arcade version, and when they enter the house, you hear a scream that is implied to be coming from Jennifer, and Rick tries to like figure out where she is, but then I think he gets knocked out somehow, and then when he wakes up, there's a mask on his face, and he's all like ripped. And I think the mask like tries to tell him like where his girlfriend is, so he can try to save her. Sorry. So it's not. I wouldn't say that this game is very story heavy. I mean, it's most like all these other 80s video games where it was just like, here's a basic plot and summary. Now just go play the game.
We can certainly play through it without caring about the story, but I think if you delve into it, it does have a lot more of a story than I would expect.
Yeah, and I think if you want like more of a story to this series, you probably want to go with the 2010 reboots, which was on Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. I don't know much about that reboot other than that it exists.
Nice.
So, anyway, I guess we can talk about the actual run now.
Yeah, so I'm looking at your run, and it looks like there was Samsara had done Taz like a 12-15-71. So, what was your motivation to go back and sort of improve? So you improved it by about 3 seconds, and now you go to 2:12. What was your motivation there?
Well, I wasn't motivated at first to do the original game. I was actually first motivated to do Splatterhouse 2. And that was because I looked at the game thread for Splatterhouse 2 on taskvideos.org. Aqua's, I don't know. I just say Aqua's, even though that's not the actual name.
Oh, AQFAQ.
Yeah, that's a... So anyway, he made a post that basically said, like, there is a very easy 30-second time save you can make on the very intro of the game. And if you watch the Splatterhouse 2 run, like the one that's published now, you'll see that Rick jumps up much earlier than he's supposed to. And that allows me to start doing my slide attack very, very quickly, which saved 30 seconds in that level alone. So I was motivated. Frames. Yeah, so I was motivated to do that game first, and so then I kind of got a little sidetracked, and I wanted to like ask the world record runner of that game, which was Zallard1, and he actually talked about how there's even like another trick that you can do in this first game that could save a lot of time too. And that's what got me to wanting to do the other game. The trick that he's mentioning is in the second stage on the boss, Samsara kicked the chair enemy out of bounds, and when it goes out of bounds far enough, then the game just registers that as a kill. But that's not the fastest way to do it. The fastest way to do it is to just kick it into the corner and then slide kick into it. And that saved probably like 60 seconds. Or no, sorry, 60 frames.
Okay.
So that's what I basically did. I was a major time save, and then of course like I had randomly gotten a few extra frames ahead in some of the levels that I was just like doing. That I was just trying to wing them to see if I can get past them.
It's pretty impressive that it was only like 3 seconds. It shows that the first one was fairly well optimized as well.
Yeah, it was fairly... I mean, I don't know what really happened with how I got faster. I just kind of like did a bunch of guesses as to what looked faster or like what could theoretically be faster. It might just come down to like small things that neither one of us picked up on that I just happened to get slightly faster ahead.
Yeah. And on Splatterhouse 1 specifically, is there any different... So, with the English and Japanese version, I know that Japanese has the religious references and the white mask, but are there any, like, gameplay differences between English and Jap?
Nope, there's not any... the games are exactly the same. It's just that the sprites were changed to remove, like, the religious references and the... and making Jason not... or I call him Jason.
You mean Rick, surely, not Jason. Who's Jason?
To make Rick not look like Jason. But yeah, other than that, the games are the exact same. And actually, for Splatterhouse 1, there's 2 encodes available on the Task Videos channel. That's one with the task running on the USA version, and then the other one running on the Japanese version.
So they completely sync between each other.
Yes, they completely sync. They're the exact same game.
That is amazing. Wow. I was surprised that the text didn't cause like slight RNG differences or something.
Well, I mean, there's not really any text in this game. It's just
or the religious stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think changing like a background sprite or anything like that would really have a big effect on a syncability of the game. I think it just comes down to like fixing bugs and stuff like that.
I guess it depends what game it is, but yeah, you're right.
One issue that I had with doing this game is that usually whenever I like do comparisons between levels, I'll always like use the so do you know how like on Task Studio, whenever you like get to a loading zone, the entire like all the frames will turn red.
Oh yeah, that's always good to use as a reference.
Yeah, I always use that as a reference to like see how far ahead I get. But this game does not have that. It just like most of the frames, if not all of them, are just are green frames. So it was kind of difficult for me to like figure out how I'm going to do comparisons. Eventually, what I did was I just like put down markers in places where the screen goes entirely black, and then just use that as a reference.
Yeah, I'm often using visual frames because I'm like hesitant to trust the red frames as well.
Mm-hmm.
Either that or they're not there.
Also, that's another reason why I like using Task Studio rather than the old method, is because comparisons like that are much easier to do.
Yeah, definitely.
Also, another interesting thing about the TurboGrafx-16 itself, when it comes to BizHawk, is that for whenever, I don't know when it happened, but if you try to sync Samsara's old movie onto a newer version of BizHawk, theoretically it should sync, but it doesn't. And the reason for that is because they switched around the 1 and 2 buttons in the input reader. So like when you're supposed to press the number 2 button, it actually presses number 1 because the buttons are switched around.
Wow. That's ridiculous.
So I'm not exactly sure what the reason for that is. Maybe it's just like for layout purposes or something like that. But either way, like movies made in older BizHawks are not going to work on newer ones. Not because of emulation, but just because of that.
That's crazy. Has the emulation changed at all since then, though? When was Samsara's TAS as well?
Hers was in 2015, if I remember correctly.
Okay,
and
yeah.
I think she used like either 1.11 or 1.12. I'm probably not right, but it was around there. But that core doesn't really have very many updates to it, and there's actually supposed to be another audio channel that's supposed to play at the beginning where it has like a drum sound effect, like a snare drum, but it's just not there, and it's replaced with a hi-hat. So, like if you play it on PC Engine, which is the old PCE emulator, it actually plays the audio correctly, like how it's supposed to be on an actual console.
Does it sync?
I wouldn't know. I haven't tried.
I guess it's probably difficult to try as well.
Yeah. I mean, I know somebody that has gotten some other of my movies to sync on older emulators just for the heck of it. Because they're bored. Or whatever. But yeah.
Yeah, it fascinates me, that world of like console verification and other emulator testing. It's pretty over my head. Amazing what they can do. Actually, yeah, I was talking to a guy, Grease Monkey at ASM, and he reckons he might be able to get like one of my Crash Tazes to sync on console. That could be like really insane, but we'll see.
I really doubt that, just because disk-based systems are pretty hard to do. From what I understand.
Exactly. He reckoned he had some way to do it that was kind of non-traditional, but he was also talking about Master System. But anyway, console verification always amazes me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So also, like, I noticed between the first two games as well. Well, because you Taz like 1 and 2, like the physics are different, weren't they?
So in the first game, you have to constantly slide every single time that you jump. Otherwise, you'll start losing speed. Like, you can do 2 frame perfect jumps after each slide, and you won't lose speed. But then every jump after that, you will lose speed. In Splatterhouse 2, if you just slide once and then you do frame perfect jumps all the way to the end, you'll still be going as fast as possible.
Yeah, I noticed that, and you're like able to turn around and stuff and face left while moving right really fast as well.
Yeah, it's pretty fun to do. The way you have to, so you'll lose speed in the air if you press any directional button, and usually it's just like it's
Is that in
usually
both games?
I don't remember if that was the case for Splatterhouse 1. I wouldn't be surprised, but I think it was. Yeah, I'll have to look though. But I definitely know it was in Splatterhouse 2.
Yeah.
So as far as Splatterhouse 1 goes, when you do a slide kick, you don't actually go double speed. You go like probably 1.5 times faster, whereas in Splatterhouse 2 you go 2 times faster. And I think, and also for Splatterhouse 2 specifically, I think the movement for that game is a lot more sluggish than Splatterhouse 1, because in Splatterhouse 2, Rick kind of controls very slowly for whatever reason.
Interesting, because just watching the two, I felt like Splatterhouse 2 was almost faster. That's probably because of all the auto-scrollers in number 1, though.
Yeah, Splatterhouse has a lot of like auto-scrolling bosses and stuff like that.
Is there much like lag reduction that you have to do in the auto-scrollers, though?
Well, Splatterhouse 1 doesn't really have any lag that I have to worry about, because, like I mentioned before, almost every single frame is a green frame, so there's no lag reduction that I have to do in there. But in Splatterhouse 2, there definitely is. Like, there's definitely a lot of like lag spikes. If you notice in like some of the later levels, like the ones with the vomity deer heads, those have some really huge lag spikes. Even the one room where you see like all the blue ghosts attacking you, that definitely has like a lot of lag in it.
Yeah, I remember that being quite laggy. So maybe like there is lag, but it doesn't show up as red frames or something. I've definitely tasked games like that before as well.
Well, if it did lag in Splatterhouse 1, I just never noticed it, because the game always seemed to run at the exact same speed it's supposed to.
Yeah, it may even compensate for the lag as well. Like, it could be that it speeds you up if you lag.
Yeah, just like Donkey Kong 64.
Yeah, and Banjo-Kazooie to an extent.
Interesting. Yeah, I know that. To kind of go on a tangent, I know that in Donkey Kong Country, I'm so used to saying Donkey Kong Country. For Donkey Kong Country, dang it, Donkey Kong 64. I do remember that for Donkey Kong 64.
Donkey Kong Country 64, yeah.
I mean, that makes sense. I do know that for Donkey Kong 64, that game was just so heavily That game is like so large that it's basically the reason why they needed to have the expansion pack required, because otherwise the game would crash because there would be no RAM space for it. Because
I think they do actually like use it in the end. It's not just to avoid the crash, but yeah, maybe they made that decision and then they like started adding more stuff. I don't know.
That game's very interesting to me just because of how they had to program it, and it's also really funny just to see the running joke of this game has no walls.
Yeah.
I'm
sure
sure
it's really good as a speed game because of that.
I'm sure Ring Rush has told you all about this in this podcast.
Oh yeah, my brother Isotage is like super into it as well. So yeah, I hear a lot about it from him. Yeah, no, apparently I think that rumor about the whole crashing with expansion pack thing is a bit wrong. Like they do actually use that extra RAM for useful things, not just to avoid crashes, but yeah. I'm sure it probably would crash if you didn't have it. Anyway, yeah, so this is the Donkey Kong 64 episode, part 2.
But from a guy who doesn't run it or he doesn't test it at all.
That's all right. I've played it casually. I'm clearly qualified. Yep. Yeah. So okay. So I guess in Splatterhouse 1 we talked about like the improvements with the chair. Did you find any like new tech? So I mean, it was only like 3 seconds, but was there any other macro scale things?
There was one for the church boss I mentioned before. So the way that level ends is that there's like a certain timer after Rick gets to the altar that the final music, like the one that goes like da 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 da, that will so let's say that as soon as Rick gets to the altar, then that music will play like 10 seconds afterward. If you get to the altar too late, then the level will take a little bit longer to get done, because the level only ends as soon as that music's done, and that music will start to play. Well, it will technically start to play as soon as Rick gets to the altar, but it won't actually like play anything until like say 10 seconds afterward. Yeah. So in Samsara's task, she killed the boss a little bit too far away from the altar, whereas I tried my best to kill the boss and get as close to the altar as possible, and that saved probably like 30 frames. So that was it wasn't as big of a time saver as the second stage boss, but it was a pretty good one. The other change that I made was it wasn't really a change, but it was just more like I had better RNG for one of the later bosses, like the second to last stage, the level that has like a bunch of baby fetuses that come and attack you. Those can usually that will ruin your pattern for attacking the boss, because like sometimes they can grab onto you as you're sliding, and then they can harm you and prevent you from doing a slide attack again. So I had managed to get a good RNG seed that allowed me to continuously attack the boss without having to worry about taking damage, because I'm pretty sure Samsara actually took damage when she was attacking the boss, and I'm pretty sure it's because she had a different RNG value than I did.
Is that slow if you take damage?
It is slower, yes, because the method for attacking that boss is to slide kick, and then jump in the air, and then kick in the air, and then slide kick again. And if that gets ruined by any enemy nearby, then it can cost you probably like a half second. Or 30 frames, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, so you saved a bit of time there. What about other tech? So you said you like sliding around a lot. Are there any other major glitches that are helping you speed this up? Not just from Samsara's, but like ones that Samsara used as well.
I can't really think of any off the top of my head. Most of it was like just trying to see if what she did really mattered at all. Like I think mostly it was just like I had a better understanding of how to manipulate the enemies to go around me, because in one of the levels I think it was like the very, like 2 rooms after the church boss. There's like this hall that has a bunch of enemies that can like jump at you. I was able to make it so that they wouldn't get my way as I was trying to do slide kicks, so I wouldn't lose any speed at all. Because I remember Samsara having to attack some of them as she went through those enemies, but I was able to do slide kicks so that both of them would just jump over me and I wouldn't have to worry about them.
Oh, that's cool.
Also, that's the only place in the game where you can actually go twice as fast as you normally walk.
Is that the one with the slopes?
Yes, if you walk down those, they make you go like twice as fast.
And can you retain that speed at all, or do you lose it as soon as you leave the slope?
You can retain it somewhat, but as I said before, like you can't really bunny hop in this game, otherwise you will lose speed. So if there was a way to retain that speed, I'm pretty sure I would have done it. But I mean, who knows? If I revisit this game, I might find like a faster strat that makes me save like 5 or 6 frames more.
Yeah, that could be cool.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you go about like manipulating the RNG if you need different RNG?
Well, for the one of the last few bosses in particular, there's a room in that same stage there's a room in the stage previously. So it has like 3 different zombies that attack you, and then there's this witch person that will revive them, and that for some reason is what manipulates the RNG, like the frame that you kill that witch on.
Okay, so there's not much point doing it like slowing down.
Yeah, so like you can so wait, what do you mean by slowing down?
Like you might not want to get different RNG because that means you would have to slow down an early bit.
Well, I mean, the one with the witch, that's an auto-scroller level. So it doesn't really matter like how fast. I mean, I guess it does matter when I kill it. But what mostly matters is like if I'm able to kill it and then get to the end of the room as fast as possible. So depending on what frame you kill the witch on, it will manipulate RNG, because that was the only boss that I could find that really did give me a different value of RNG for later levels.
Okay, yeah. And what about like overall like glitches? Are there many glitches in the run at all, or is it fairly standard and just well optimized?
I would say it's fairly standard. There's a few like things that you're not really supposed to do, but I wouldn't really consider them glitches. I would just consider them like more exploits or something like that. Actually, no. There is one glitch. I actually just remembered this. It's in the church boss. So the way that boss works is that so it's going in like an up and down motion, and once it gets to the bottom of the screen, when you get to the end of the room, it will start to do an arc that will like move upward around you, almost like a rainbow. If you prevent, so if you hit the boss while it's still in the up and down state, it will freeze previously, but then it will get back to like where it was supposed to be if it wasn't being hit. And what that does is that it can actually skip the position that it needs to be in to do that overarching movement. And the only way for me to attack the boss without making it get to that point as soon as I get to the end of the room is to stop going the fastest movement possible, which is to slide, kick, and jump, and then instead just to walk to the end to hit the boss. So theoretically, you have to really not go the fastest movement in the game in that one room in particular to beat that room in the fastest way possible.
Fair enough. Yeah. I imagine that would so it may be a glitch, but it probably looks like fairly normal gameplay from an outsider's perspective without being really familiar with it.
Yeah, I would say it's accurate.
And does this game have or is it Splatterhouse 2 that has the glitch where you go off the left side of the screen and underflow or something?
That's 2. Yeah, that's 2.
Yeah. Okay. And in Splatterhouse 1, I remember seeing you had this auto scroller where you had this spear weapon and you kept picking it up and you had heaps of them. Is that a glitch or is that just something you're able to do?
That's just something I'm able to do.
No,
I guess if you want to consider this a glitch, if you have so many sprites on screen, it just will make other sprites disappear.
Yeah, because you had some funky play around with those.
Yeah, I would just say that's more of a sprite limit rather than a glitch. It's just make the game run fast. Although you can change the BizHawk settings so that you can so that the sprites don't disappear like that. Although for tool assisted for task videos publications, they have to have that limitation active.
Yeah, because they would disappear on an actual TurboGrafx 16.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I liked Splatterhouse 1. It was a really fun game to do. And then I eventually did Splatterhouse 2, which was even more fun. The only thing that wasn't fun about that game was the lag. The lag absolutely was terrible.
So does it actually show up with red frames in Splatterhouse 2?
Yes, it absolutely is. And one of the issues that I had with doing the Splatterhouse 2 game was because I was trying to compare against Aquafus. Is that how we said it? The guy that did the previous task, Aquafus.
Yeah.
Is that how we said it? Aquafac.
Sorry, Aquafac. AQFAQ, anyway. Yeah.
Aquafac. So anyway, he was the runner of he was the tasker of the old tasks that I was obsoleting, but he used gens. And if you know anything about gens, first off, you know it's terrible. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is that gens is very low on its accuracy for lag in particular. I mean, you had the standard loading takes less time than on a more accurate emulator. But the other thing is that lag is very rare in gens. So
you're playing at a disadvantage here, then.
Yeah. So my disadvantage would be to having to optimize lag, and I feel like I did a pretty good job at doing that.
And you ended up actually ahead in the end as well.
No, I was like 1 or 2 or 3 seconds behind, and that was only because of emulation differences.
Yeah, but it was actually played better.
Yes, it was played better. If you sync if you were to take the old task and make it sync on a more accurate emulator, then my movie would be much faster.
So it says 128 frames here. Is that, do you reckon it would be that much faster if they were on the same emulator?
Yeah.
Okay. So you said there was 30 at the start or something, 30 frames at the start. Where are you saving the rest?
30 frames at the start. And then later, I had discovered a method of... So in the second level in particular, right before you get to the boss, there's this area where as soon as you enter that zone, Rick will just start moving forward on his own. And it won't be at the sliding speed. Instead, he'll just be going at a normal walking speed. So what I was able to do, and actually first off, let me explain. So in this game, if you were to press the attack button at a turbo precision, so every other frame, you can freeze any sort of animation that Rick has at that moment. So if he was walking and then you press that button a bunch of times, then he'll just stay in that position that he was in. So this could be useful for attacking. So if you were doing a slide kick, then you can keep the slide kick animation, and the hitbox for his kick will still be there. So you can use that to continuously hit enemies. You can also jump in the air while you do that.
Yeah, because I was going to say you're sliding in the air somehow, and so this is how you do it. You mash the attack button. Is that right?
Yes, that's basically what's going on. And so anyway, the room before the second stage boss, what I was able to do was to jump in the air as I was doing that slide, and that keeps my speed at double speed for a little bit longer, just so I can get to the end faster. Yeah, it was one of those things I was really proud of, because it's like, I don't think anybody's ever thought of this.
Nice. Yeah, so if you like keep your slide animation, then you keep your slide speed. Is that right?
Not exactly. If you jump as you keep that slide animation, like, you can preserve it.
Okay, yeah.
Having the slide animation while like, preserving the slide animation itself won't preserve the speed, but if you jump and then preserve that slide animation, then it will keep your speed.
Nice. So how much did that save, just that bit?
I actually don't remember if I ever wrote it down. I'm going to take a guess and say, like, probably 10 or 20 frames.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a nice time save, basically. Yeah, that was one of the things I found. Most of the time, it was also just like me fixing some areas that just very obviously were slow. Like, there was one point where the old task jumped way too late, and so he wasn't able to keep the double speed. I think it was like around the doctor boss, or the forget. There's a villain in this game, but he doesn't show up until the rebooted Splatterhouse game. But he makes an appearance in Splatterhouse too. But it's implied that you don't know who he is. I think he's Albert West. I can't remember the actual name. I know that he's based on. So, since this game is about horror references, that doctor is based on Herbert West for Reanimator.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not very familiar with that, actually.
I've never seen it, but I just know that that trivia. That's what the guys referenced as. So yeah, there was mistakes like that I was able to pick up on. And I don't know if there's really much else to say about improvements. It was just it wasn't as much as I got with Splatterhouse 1, but it was still quite a bit.
Yeah. And you removed some inappropriate jokes as well, which shall not be named.
Yeah, all I'll say is that it's in the second to last boss in the game.
Sure, yeah, definitely.
It's just I didn't really find it tasteful.
Yeah, I don't know. You make it more family friendly anyway. I mean, why not?
Yeah, make it more family friendly in a very violent series.
Yeah, make a gory horror game more family friendly. That's right.
Yeah, the gore is fine. It's just that one joke we cannot stand. The children
definitely not.
The children will be traumatized.
I think you still had good play around in there anyway, so that's fine. And this game has some weird glitch where you go off the left side of the screen after a boss. That was pretty confusing when I watched it. Could you explain what's going on there?
Okay, so like the other room I was talking about, where I did that jumping up slide kick to get to the end of the room faster. It is a cutscene trigger.
So that was an optimization for that glitch.
Technically, yeah. So basically, there's an entire cutscene trigger, like, in that whole area at the end. And what I do is I try to trigger that cutscene trigger as I'm sliding in the opposite direction. That way, when the cutscene is triggered, then the ending will also be triggered as well. So if I slide to the other side, I can wrap around, and a little bit of my hitbox gets to the exit because of the wraparound, and it ends the level right away. So that's basically what's happening. It's basically me, like, trying to trigger the cutscene so then the exit will spawn, and then as soon as I wrap around the screen, then the level just ends. At least that's how I understand it.
Okay. Very good. Yeah, and that was in Aquax Taz as well.
Yeah. Also, I don't think I would have actually been able to figure that skip out, if I didn't randomly find a Lua script that was made for this game specifically included with BizHawk. Because apparently BizHawk has a bunch of Lua scripts included with each emulator. And
oh, wow. I did not know that.
Yeah, so like there's one for because it was nice too because it had a hitbox viewer for all the enemies, which made it really helpful. And it actually was able to let me understand what was going on in that cutscene skip.
Mm.
There's so if you like looking, actually I can pull this up real quick to see where it is. So if you open up any BizHawk file or BizHawk folder, so like let's say I'm opening up 2.3.1 right now. If you open up tools, oh wait, no, that's not it. If you open up any sort of what the heck?
That's on Lua, is it?
Oh yeah, it's under Lua. So you can find a folder that has you can find a folder that has like Lua scripts for Genesis, N64, NES, PCE, SNES, and then and yeah. So
yeah, cool. I see it in here too. Well, there you go. I did not know that.
Yeah. So
is there a difference between the Japanese and US version for number 2? In terms of sync friendliness?
For sync friendliness, it wouldn't work because the hard mode for the Japanese version has only one heart, so it's a one hit KO for the hard version of the Japanese version. But for the for the US version, it's only 2 hearts, which means you can take 1 hit, but then no more hits after that.
So it'd be slow, would it?
It would be slightly slower because there are a few points where I have to take damage to go fast, which includes the second to last boss.
Yeah, that's fair enough then. Yeah. And I suppose if Alphac did it on US as well, you want to follow that same trend if you're trying to obsolete their test.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm pretty sure a Japanese version of the game would be interesting to see, just because like they actually don't change the mask to be more skull-like. They keep the hockey mask look. Although I don't know if it's really more of a hockey mask. It just kind of looks more smooth white, almost like they removed like the facial holes on the bottom of the mask, which is usually what a hockey mask would have. But it's interesting. There's also a ROM hack of this game that basically replaces all the sprites in the game to look more like the classic Rick, which is pretty interesting.
Look more like the movies.
Yeah, I guess.
Wow.
Actually, no. It's a ROM hack where you can play as Jason Voorhees.
Yeah. Well, you are playing as Jason already, aren't you?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, legally, you have to say no.
No, it's Rick. Yeah, it's Jason.
It's Rick.
Yeah. Is there much of a difference between like the arcade game and the TurboGrafx one for Splatterhouse 1 as well?
Yes, there is.
Speedrunning?
There is, actually. And just one word to describe it. Lag. The arcade version is much more laggy than the other one.
Any interest in testing it though?
Yes, but I do not want to deal with MAME, at least at this point.
That's fair enough, yeah.
There are plans to... and it's not because of the traditional method. There's a few other reasons why I kind of staying away from MAME, and it's just because of how the emulator is set up. It's a little bit confusing, which I don't know if I'm really willing to put up with. But there are plans, and I don't know when it's supposed to happen, but there are plans to get MAME into BizHawk, which will be very helpful because that way I'll actually be more motivated to do that game. But I don't know when it's supposed to happen. I just know that Theos is having a little bit of difficulty putting it in because normally you could just waterbox cores like that into BizHawk, but this is a little bit different because MAME kind of works differently depending on which game you put in. Because of course arcade will have different properties. It's not like Super Nintendo or Genesis, where like you just the emulator will run the games like exactly the same. Like there's different boards that MAME has to actually be able to support and be able to play games. So
it's pretty amazing they can even make an emulator for arcade. Like honestly, I think it'd be so varied. Yeah, that's good. So, how about any plans to test like later Splatterhouse games in the series?
Well, right now I have started testing out Splatterhouse 3 because Splatterhouse 3 is a much different from the original games. It's actually more of a beat 'em up than a side-scrolling game. Like it's more in like the same realm as something like Streets of Rage. Where like you can where you can actually like move up and down, left and right. But it's been interesting to do so far. So I'm excited to see how it'll get. The other thing that's interesting about that game in particular is that there's actually a few different endings to the game, and it all depends on like how fast you complete the game. So,
well, I assume I know what ending you're getting then.
Yeah, the best ending, because it's actually the fastest ending too.
Oh, that's convenient.
Very convenient, yeah. Because like the way that the game works is that in almost every single level, there's gonna be a time limit to. Well, I guess the time limit doesn't really like prevent you from finishing the game. The time limit. So the whole idea is that the Splatterhouse has become your house, and both Jennifer and your son are captured by these people, and you have to go save them in time before they like get killed off or they just like turn into zombies. Because I know that like there's one level where if you don't get to Jennifer in time in the first level, she will be infected by a boar worm, and you still have a chance to save her, but you have to defeat the next level in like before a minute is left on the timer. Otherwise, she will become a mindless zombie. So it's a pretty dark. It's like compared to the other games, it's actually very dark because there's actually some risk involved in how you play the game.
Yeah, that sounds really weird. Was that on like Genesis as well?
Yes, it was. And a reminder: this is the game that was rated MA13, not MA17. And it was also the game that was featured. It was also the game that was slightly featured in the Senate hearing for violence in video games.
It was retrospectively given a higher rating on the Wii VC as well, wasn't it?
I don't know if Splatterhouse 3 was, but I definitely know that Splatterhouse 2 was given a mature rating on the Wii VC. It was the only game. It's the only game on the Wii VC that was rated M. I think Splatterhouse 1 was on there as well, but I think it was only rated teen, which is 13.
I wonder if it would be better for speedrunners to use that. Like maybe there would be less lag on Wii VC.
I have to ask Zeller about it. I think he's talked about it, but I don't think because mostly he's doing runs on the arcade board because he recently just got one.
Oh wow!
Because he was mostly just playing it on his Switch before, and I think you can actually get the arcade game on your Wii VC, but you have to hack your Wii to be region free or something like that. Because I think the arcade version was only available for Japan.
That's a bit of a shame because it seemed like a pretty nice version, but
yeah,
I guess they wouldn't want all their religious stuff in there too.
Yeah, but I mean, you can still play the arcade version on the Switch with the Namco collection. Which, funny enough, that Namco collection normally should be rated E for everyone, but because Splatterhouse was included, they had to rate it T, just because Splatterhouse was included.
Wow, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
You'd think they wouldn't include it at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I think most people that play these old games are fairly older anyway, so I don't think any kid is going to mind.
Well, yeah, young kids probably aren't super into arcade collections, I suppose.
Yeah. And I mean, and even like if you're going to include a game like that, you might want to have a warning at the beginning saying like this game is not suitable for younger kids or something like that. Because, like for example, the rare replay for the Xbox One, because it included some more mature rated games, like I think Perfect Dark and Conker's Bad Fur Day. Since those games are rated mature. They had a warning before you played them saying this game is not for kids or something like that. So I feel like
was Rare Replay overall rated M because of that as well?
It wasn't rated. It had a special rating. It was rated E to M. Like it had a special thing for the ESB where it showed both E-M on it. Since it was cool. Since it's a collection of games, and I think the Super Nintendo Classic did the same thing, where it had E to T.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I forget which games were rated T on the Super Nintendo though. I'll have to take a look. It's probably something like Chrono Trigger or something.
I feel like Super Metroid may have got a higher rating than like E.
You know what? I'm gonna look that up real quick because now I'm curious. See what Super Metroid rating was.
Might have been like a PG or something. I don't know.
I'm gonna say probably like either E or just E10 plus.
Yeah,
it was rated E. It was rated E for the Wii and Wii U versions.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I don't know why I thought it was higher then.
Let me take a look and see if the Chrono Trigger is rated higher.
I love Chrono Trigger.
I still have to get back to that. Yeah, Chrono Trigger's rated T. That's probably what's going on.
Oh, wow. I'm actually surprised. It seemed fairly tame to me.
I mean, I think it's tame. But I think it's like certain aspects of it. Actually, wait a minute. Okay, so Chrono Trigger's rated E for the Super Nintendo. I think Chrono Trigger's rated E10 plus for the Nintendo DS.
I can see Lavos being a little bit scary, but
yeah, the Wii is everyone 10 and up. Chrono Trigger for the PlayStation 3 and PSP was rated teen, and then for PlayStation 3, PS Vita, and PSP was rated teen. So I guess maybe I guess maybe ESRB wanted to have a higher rating, so you just went with that. Actually, no, wait a minute. I don't know. Chrono Trigger wasn't on the classic. I'm stupid. I'm sorry.
Should have been.
It definitely should have been. It's a great game.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
I'm going to look up the games. I want to figure out which game is causing the... This is completely off topic anyway.
It's got to be really obvious, like a Mortal Kombat or a Street Fighter or something.
Contra 3 was on there.
That could be it.
No, that's E10 plus.
What are they doing?
What are they doing?
I think I know why Super Metroid was higher. It's because I was thinking of Breath of the Wild, which is M, which always surprises me.
Oh, okay.
I think Ocarina of Time might be high-ish. I don't know.
Okay, so Super Castlevania is on there.
That could do it.
E10 plus. E10 plus. Wait, Doom was on there? You kidding me? Final Fantasy 3, PSP is rated teen.
That'll be it, I reckon. I still need to play that.
Oh well, it's not important. Well, we just know that there's some suggestive games on there, but not too much to hurt a child.
Anyway, anything you wanted to talk about still with the Splatterhouse 1 and 2 testing?
I think we covered most of it. It's more the game itself that's more interesting to me than the actual game, than the actual gameplay, like just the history.
Yeah, it's pretty obscure and certainly an interesting hidden gem.
It's hard to imagine that this is by the same company that made Pac-Man.
Wow, was it really? Far out.
Yeah, Pac-Man and Mappy and all that stuff.
Oh, so it's actually Namco.
Mhm.
Wow.
By the way, why is it that in Japan they're referred to as Namcot? I never understood that.
I don't know. That is really weird, isn't it? Huh.
Yeah, I don't get it either. It's kind of weird.
Cool. And any other like speedruns or Tazes you would want to recommend for the listeners?
I guess I would probably recommend Tai 2 for the GBA.
Interesting choice. Yeah, very good.
Very interesting choice. It's like Mario 64, but if backdashing was the only method of movement.
Yeah, so that was made by Mittens and some other guy. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, he's,
cool.
Probably some loser.
Oh yeah. And any others that you'd recommend, or any speedruns?
Well, there's one that's going to be submitted very very soon by Memory. It is the third box game on the TurboGrafx 16. It's been a game that she's been very, very invested in, and I think it's going to be a great one. Probably better than Block 1 and 2 combined.
Oh, nice. Yeah, there's some random guy who did those as well. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably kind of awkward.
And yeah, so what are you working on now? Still working on Symphony of the Night, I suppose?
Taking a break from that just because there's a little bit of issue going on with one of the bosses I'm trying to fight. So, just trying to take a break from that. Right now, I'm finishing. Well, I guess we're trying to push through The Lion King on Genesis with Tomba.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he was very against doing. I guess he wasn't against doing that version, but I know that he hates the sound of Genesis. So it's if you just turn off the sound, I'm sure he's fine. But
yeah,
I don't dislike the Genesis. I actually love the Genesis sounds. It's very unique.
Works really good for games like Ys when it's a bit more of a rocky, metal-y soundtrack.
Absolutely, and I think it definitely works very well. I like my favorite Genesis soundtrack is the one for Decap Attack. Like that's a very rockin' soundtrack, especially the introduction theme. I love that one so much.
Cool. Yeah, so you're working on yeah, and we're working on Sonic 2 at the moment on the Master System. I think I'm keen to get back into that eventually. I got a bit demotivated at one point, but yeah, I've still got to have a look at some of the frames that you saved there.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, that game's very strange. I think it's very different from Sonic 1 on the Sega Master System.
Oh yeah, it's pretty similar to Chaos though. So yeah,
it's it has a very very strange movement. Like for one, for whatever reason, the in-game timer does not work on certain emulators. Like it's completely different if you played it on something like Dega, and the speed run itself, like the RTA speed run, it's also completely off, and I have no idea why.
Yeah, which is why it's hard for us to compare to Mike 89's Taz as well.
Yes, and especially because like most Sonic tasks have to go by in-game time because of the score screen at the end.
Don't worry, I'll make him go for real time minus time bonus. We'll work around it.
That's good. That's good.
Cool. So where can everyone find you? I assume social media, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, whatever.
Yeah.
As videos.
My Twitter is EZGames69, just as it is. I'm mostly available to talk to on Discord. If you go to the taskvideos.org Discord. My YouTube channel is also EZGames69, but with the space between EZGames and 69. I got nothing else to really promote. That's all I got.
Cool. And so you don't stream, do you? Just work offline and then upload?
I usually work offline, although once in a while, if I'm up for it, I'll stream. But I'll usually tweet about it or post about it in Discord if I'm streaming. I don't do it very often. I just do it when it's like when it feels right.
Yeah, it's a bit hard to Taz stream sometimes as well.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Yeah, well, thanks for coming on. Hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it, like Splatterhouse and your Taz's get some well-deserved attention as well. I certainly had a lot of fun finding out about this series. I didn't really know about it beforehand, but I'm surprised it's not more popular than it is.
Yeah, it's very cool. Also, I just want to give a quick shout out to the Splatterhouse Speedrun Discord, which is something I recently created. We are a very small community right now, but we're slowly growing about this. We're slowly growing. We got a few new runners for the game, including Stormcrow 56K, and yeah, it's becoming a very friendly community. Also, we recently just had one of the games run at GDQ, which was a game we forgot to talk about, which I don't know if it's even worth to talk about. Splatterhouse Wonpaka Graffiti. It's a chibi spinoff on the NES, which is not very violent at all. It's much more lighthearted. But Stormcrow 56K got a world record in that run at GDQ.
Oh, nice.
And also, I want to give another quick shout out to lattmackey, who did the Bonk's Revenge tasks at GDQ, which got me into doing the task for Bonk's Revenge, and then also he was speedrunning Splatterhouse as well, which also got me interested in doing the Splatterhouse series itself. So,
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, he also did commentary for the Wonpaka Graffiti run too, so he was pretty good at it.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I'm sure they'll be glad to hear that if they listen. So, yeah. All right. Yeah. Well, yeah. Thanks for coming on. Hope you enjoyed, and yeah, thanks everyone for listening.
Welcome. See you later.
See ya.